Hello, I'm Jason Turvey of the Class Consciousness Project, and welcome to the latest in our series of bulletins updating you on class struggle in Britain and across the world. And we'll start our roundup in Britain, where junior doctors are currently striking as part of their long-running dispute over pay. The British Medical Association, which represents the doctors, is demanding a 35% pay rise to make up for 15 years of below-inflation pay rises, which the government has described as unreasonable in the current economic context. The government's offer is for just 6%, with an additional payment of £1,250. Inflation is currently standing at 10.7%. Meanwhile, junior doctors in Scotland have suspended their strike action after the Scottish Government offered a 12.4% pay rise for this year and then a pay rise set at the rate of inflation for the next 3 years, with scope for negotiations to raise pay by above the rate of inflation. The British Medical Association has stated that they believe negotiations have reached their limit and don't believe that further strike action will yield further concessions from the Scottish Government. The offer has been put before the BMA's members in Scotland for their consideration. Staying in Britain, and some 13,000 British Airways workers have accepted a pay deal worth 13%, according to their union, Unite. Workers will receive the pay rise over 18 months, as well as a one-off payment of £1,000. The British Airways workers covered by the deal excludes pilots and managers and comes after a prolonged period of negotiation between the management and Unite. The aviation industry has been plagued with self-inflicted staff shortages since they laid off thousands of workers when air travel was severely restricted by Western governments' responses to COVID. They also saw thousands of staff retire from the industry without replacing them. The pay rise given to BA workers is part of a raft of inflation-busting pay rises given to aviation industry staff across Europe. German airline Lufthansa have offered their pilots a pay rise of 25% for captains and between 33% and 50% for co-pilots, which is currently being considered by the pilots themselves, who are represented by the Vereinigung Cockpit Union. That said, there are still huge staffing issues which persist in the industry, particularly in air traffic control, which we covered in a bulletin a few weeks ago. BA made the decision to sack and rehire its workforce when COVID was at its peak, but Unite has also won a reversal of British Airways' intention to carry this out. Meanwhile, GMB members and mass picketers forced the closure of the Amazon fulfilment centre in Coventry on Saturday the 5th of August. Local managers sent their day shift staff home at 3 p.m. and gave their night shift workers the night off as protesters descended on the fulfilment centre in support of the workers' struggle on pay and trade union recognition. Staying in retail, and the future of 12,000 jobs hangs in the balance as high street retailer Wilko went into administration on the 10th of August. The chain, which has 400 stores, has been struggling for some time as high streets in towns and cities across the country become more and more desolate. Major high street retailers have either collapsed completely, as in the cases of BHS, House of Fraser and Debenhams, or have decided to leave their high street locations and move to out-of-town retail parks, as Marks and Spencer have done. Coupled to this is that Wilko's two key competitors, Home Bargains and B&M, already have locations in out-of-town retail parks, leaving Wilko, already in cash flow problems and losing money, no option but to call in the administrators. Workers at Wilko are members of the GMB union, who have confirmed that Wilko will continue to trade and that all hours worked will be paid, but clearly the company going into administration will bring grave concerns to everyone working at Wilko. Now, scaffolders working at Hinkley Point Nuclear Power Station near Bristol have taken unofficial industrial action against poor pay rates and shift patterns. 300 workers who are employed by bylaw walked out on Wednesday the 2nd of August and intend to not turn up for work for 1 day a week as they organise their own industrial action. Apparently workers have become increasingly disgruntled at their pay. One worker, who spoke to the trade magazine Construction Inquirer, said that, quote, "We have been wanting the mechanical rate. Our travel pay is way below what the MEH Alliance get. This week we just made a stand. It's not a happy camp here." The industrial situation at Hinkley Point had been growing more febrile in the last few weeks. 125 mechanical and electrical workers walked out over a 50% cut in workers' travel allowances. Their actions saw the travel allowances restored, but the growing antagonisms at Hinkley Point could boil over in the coming weeks. The one important lesson to draw from this is that these actions have been taken by workers on their own, not via trade unions. And we at the Class Consciousness Project have always believed that if trade unions won't organise workers, then workers will organise themselves. And this class struggle at Hinkley Point proves that workers instinctively know when they're being exploited and will take action, whether there's a trade union there to back them or not. We send our comradely greetings and solidarity to everyone involved in struggle at Hinkley Point. Meanwhile, on the 31st of July, the National Education Union announced that after a consultation with its membership, it would be accepting the 6.5% pay rise offered by the government via its proxy, the School Teachers Review Body, and so brought to an end months of struggle, which the union said was not just about pay, but the very future of the profession itself. The pay rise, which is only partially funded, was accepted by the NEU, as well as 3 other teaching unions, while the rate of inflation for June stands at 10.7%, meaning that this settlement amounts to a pay cut after years of pay cuts for teachers. The NEU has vowed to fight on, but with no sign of the cost of living crisis receding, and contributors for the Financial Times calling for their fellow capitalists to throw the economy into recession, it looks like the NEU has followed the Communication Workers Union and the Royal College of Nursing in leading their members into defeat. We've written an article on the collapse of these 3 major class struggles and the failures of the trade unions which led them, and you can find it on our website at classconsciousnessproject.blog. Turning now to the United States, and hotel workers in Los Angeles have called on Taylor Swift to postpone her performances in the city, which were due to start on the 9th of August, to support their campaign for better wages and working conditions. Swift failed to respond to their request, leaving her fans visiting the city to watch her shows, potentially checking into hotels with uncleaned rooms, unchanged bedsheets and possibly worse. Los Angeles is also the epicentre of the Screen Actors and Writers strikes, which is causing dozens of productions to be postponed until the new year. The hotel workers have been forming picket lines along with actors and screenwriters in searing temperatures to support each other in their respective disputes. It's been reported that some actors' strike picket lines have struggled to find workers to stand on them, which the union which represents them, the SAG-AFTRA, says is evidence that actors are so poorly paid they can't even afford to live in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, workers at United Parcel Service have until the 22nd of August to decide if they will accept a 5-year pay and conditions package agreed between UPS and the Workers' Union, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. As I reported on a previous bulletin, not all Teamsters members are convinced that the offer presents the victory that the unions proclaimed it has. The majority of UPS's workforce are part-timers, some working only 3.5 hours a day, and the offer raises all part-timers' pay to a minimum of $21 an hour, which is not enough in the view of part-time workers. They say that the offer doesn't reflect the huge efforts that workers made for UPS during the pandemic, when there was an explosion in parcel shipping as shops were closed in many states in response to COVID. We'll see what happens and report on this again in the future. And that wraps up our bulletin. But if you're involved in a dispute that you think we should know about, get in touch with us at classconsciousnessproject@gmail.com. You can check out our website at classconsciousnessproject.blog, where our latest posts include an article on the future of the monarchy in Britain, a piece looking at footballer Jordan Henderson and his transfer to Saudi Arabia, and of course our article on the teachers, postal workers and nurses strikes. And if you like our work and you want to help support us financially, you can donate via the link in the description below. You can also find us on Telegram, on Twitter or X, on Instagram and on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Solidarity.